Hello and welcome. I am Manish Anand. The Raisina Hills brings to you another special episode with two very special guests on a very important topic. We have with us Major General retired Shafi Asthana. He is a veteran in the strategic affairs, a well-known name internationally with a lot of research papers and a very vocal voice about India's gaining its own strategic independence in the international sphere in the ever-changing fluid international order. Also joining us is Mayank Singh, India's foremost defense correspondent, currently with the New Indian Express. He has been a former colleague and a very academic oriented defense correspondent with a lot of insight in all the three wings of the armed forces. So, Major
Thank you,
General
sir.
Asthana, to begin with you, we have the Defense Expo, that is the 12th edition, the largest is in Asia, that is taking place in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. It will also take place at Sabarmati riverfront and in some parts of Porbandar coastal areas. How this event is important for India's bid to gain self-reliance in the defense sector.
Firstly, this Defense Expo 2022 is a very welcome step. And why I say welcome step for many reasons as far as India is concerned. Firstly, we know that globally, whether it is United States or Russia, the economy flourishes on defense sales. And defense export is one of the major sources of income for a number of countries, whether it is United States, Russia, Israel, France, and many others. But there is a window of opportunity which has just been created. Now, the whole world, with the kind of events which have happened, is looking at uh, preparing its own defense, whether it is Europe, whether it is smaller countries in Indo-Pacific, and many other countries which are sitting on the fences as of now, because the conflicts are there at a number of places, and there are many flashpoints which have come. So everybody wants to buy equipment. Now, if you see the global choices, what are the global choices? United States equipment is very costly, of course, reliable, but very costly. Same is the case with Israeli equipment. Russians, their equipment was cheap and was selling. But as of now, their production capacity has got constrained because of the effects of war and because of sanctions by the West. And therefore, the raw materials and other components of the defense manufacturing are not getting it. China manufactures a lot, but nobody buys it other than the captive audience like Pakistan and North Korea and maybe other small countries, for a very simple reason, because their equipment is not reliable. In fact, bulk of their sales are getting into Pakistan and maybe Bangladesh. People who have taken loans, they are the only guys who buy Chinese equipment. Nobody else buys it. Now, India can produce an alternative in number of technologies where we have mastered or where we are developing, where our equipment is cheap and our equipment is reliable. So there is a very great opportunity in defense manufacturing which is coming. Also, if we become self-reliant, we also save a fair amount of foreign exchange, because a large amount of our capital budget goes for purchase of weapons from outside or other equipment from outside. So therefore, if we improve our self-reliant capability, we save the foreign exchange, we also increase our capacity building, and there is another requirement which is called in defense as surge capability. Surge capability is that if you are in war, all of a sudden your defense expenditure can hike up and you need your factories to work overnight 24/7 to produce extra equipment, which was not as per the normal rate of production. Now that capacity also can only come if you have indigenous production. So all these things put together, we have come a big way. Earlier, the problem was that the private industry. Now this, because private industry is important. Government by itself cannot be the defense production, or the cannot be doing all the production, defense production. So therefore you need private players and you need private capital as well. Earlier, private companies were not coming up because the research and development, R&D of defense is very costly. And unless you have a fixed order, you it doesn't make economic sense for private companies to invest. So therefore, now what has happened is that the government has made it slightly easier for them. There are partnerships with DRDO. We are sharing the research capability, so bringing down the cost of R&D in some manner. There is also something called as GOCO model, government owned but commercially utilized, or commercially utilized by the industrial sector. So therefore, what happens is the cost of R&D goes down. Secondly, we have various categories as per the DPP of 2020, and thereafter a number of positive policies have come up. So with that, what has happened is that you can get into collaboration with the foreign firms. They can come and manufacture in India. So that is why a lot of push on make in India, because if you make in India, the economy benefits, and you also create directly or indirectly some expertise to be able to take it on later. And then of course we put transfer of technology clauses also. So these are some of the areas where we are getting in. And also as a policy tweaking, we have done positive indigenization lists have come out. So all these things actually help in concentrating on the defense manufacturing and indigenous defense manufacturing and Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Definitely, that gives a very fair view about the prevailing change in the ecosystem in which the private sector is being co-opted in India's bid to gain the self-reliance. Mayank, you had been in Jodhpur recently, where the helicopter was inducted in the Air Force, and you were also with in Kochi, where INS Vikrant was inducted and commissioned, where almost about 50% participation in equipment came from the domestic manufacturers. How is the mood, Mayank, you see in the Indian Defense Forces?
Uh, Armed forces, I mean, by nature, innately they are nationalistic. They are patriots who are totally dedicated towards the national cause. And if they are able to get or fire the weapons, test the weapons, utilize the weapons which are indigenous, that's going to boost the morale definitely. Now that's about the fighting force, which can be at the executionary level, which is at the lower level. Talking about the thinking hats of the armed forces, which is like planners, policymakers, the people who visualize and they plan for the future, vision planning and all. It's for them also, according to them, it's unless you fight your own war with your own weapons, it's never a strategic autonomy in reality, because you will be always dependent on supplies which is from a country which might have its own dynamic international relations, which might come in between the supplies, or you might be in a position which creates doubts in you. So definitely the mood is really good. The other point which has been happening, and the push is the reason actually, the way the environment has been created, the way the systems are being created, that is the major change which is taking place. What is that actually? Even if you bring a technology of an engine to your country, but let's say everything which is right from the metallurgy to the circuits to the chips, if everything is coming from outside and your people are not of the technological mark wherein they can imbibe the technology, it's of no good use. Here what has happened actually, you are creating an environment at the base. So let's say even tomorrow you have joint ventures. Mind it, it has been happening since quite long. The situation has changed in this particular way that today you have built up a structure by which you can assimilate, imbibe, and flourish with the same technology, which might come from abroad. Also, the people from outside, which is the foreign countries, which is the organization's original equipment manufacturers who will come for joint ventures with you, they also know that with this kind of a base, they will be able to produce their weaponry, their equipments, their system, which can be supplied abroad at a very reasonable expenditure input cost.
Exactly, Major General Asthana. That has been what stated by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh when he said that Indian defense goods are reliable and economical. And in that context, 20 defense ministers of various countries at least are going to participate. And we came across the news that we have sold apparently arms to Armenia, which is in war with with a neighboring country, and we have been supplying BrahMos to East Asian countries. Do you think that India is arriving on the international stage in exporting the defense goods?
Certainly, we are a late starter for the reason because when British left India, they did not had the defense manufacturing in India, and that's why we have to start from the scratch. I think we have done fairly well. We are hoping to increase the defense production by about 25 billion and defense sales and defense exports by about 5 billion in next few years. Now that is the target. A fair amount of it is being achieved and has been achieved in a manner that if you just count as to in terms of percentage, it is 500% increase in the defense export. But notwithstanding that, there is a long way to go before we even arrive at the first 10 and top 10 defense exporters. And more than that is our own self-reliance as far as our own requirements are concerned. So I think everything will go together. Notwithstanding that, let me also place certain things in a manner that if you see in the policy making, we have something called as IDDM as priority 1. Now, this is indigenously designed, developed, and manufactured in India. So every equipment, when we have to buy or purchase, it has to pass through various priority segments. So the first one, the top priority is IDDM. And then we have buy and make in India. And then we have buy and make. And then the last category is buy global. So buying global is an option when nothing else works out. Now, that has been stated very clearly, and the priorities are very straight in that. Now, as far as this Defense Expo is concerned, what is being showcased is not only what we are producing, a lot is being showcased as to what we are in the process of developing. So, which are in various stages of development even as of now. So, DRDO will expose these 20 odd countries, as you mentioned, which are participating, to all as to what India is capable of and what India is going to do in times to come. Similarly, it's not only Indian companies, others have also been invited, whether it is Saab or it is Lockheed Martin, in addition to the Indian companies like Adani Defense, Bharat Forge, etc., and L&T. In addition to that, as I was mentioning, the policies make a lot of changes. So a couple of years back, we increased the defense investment from outside from 49% to 74% as far as defense manufacturing is concerned. So that was a major step for our collaborators, or whenever we have the joint ventureship of our firms with others. So that was one step taken. Then there was also many other steps taken, like there are DIA centers, then there is a IDEX where people can sell their ideas. That is the interface between the defense and the outside world who want to manufacture. Then we also have some center of excellences. Then there are various schemes which have come up where you could support the academia, you can support startups, and you can support MSMEs. Even let's say if the main equipment is being manufactured by somebody else, we are also undertaking the manufacture of spares for a number of cases. Even Russians also in some equipment, they told us to make spares and sell it to their purchasers who were buying actually the Russian equipment and now are getting starved because of spares, because of the problems with with the war. So these are some of the areas where India is working out even our own inventory. Now you find whether it is Air Force inventory and any other smaller inventories or other arms. The ideal figure is that we should have about 30, 40, 30%. Now 30% is the state of the art equipment, 40% is the current equipment, and 30% is the equipment which should be moving out of the service in recent future. Now, our figures actually went haywire because now we are left with about 10 to 15% state of the art, about 30 odd percent current equipment, and we have a huge inventory of almost obsolete equipment. So with the result, we need to change this equation very fast, and which we are doing. And this can only be developed, it can only be done if we do our own manufacturing. So all in all, I would say that yes, we are on the right side, but there is a lot to catch up, with the other manufacturers of the world. And but we are on right lines, and we have the capacity. We have cheap labor, we have space, we have minerals, we have young population to do the work, and we have technological savvy population as well, which can add on to the manufacturing capacity. So putting everything together, I think we are a serious contender as far as defense exports are concerned, and this defense expo is showcasing our capability in that context.
Mayank, we have a lot to catch up, and if we remember the years of 2013, 2012, when the army chief used to say that we are very short on ammunitions, and at that time, General VK Singh used to come in controversy about the state of arms with the army. Are we better off in the last 9 years?
As far as availability of the equipments, I think I need to carry forward what General Asthana was saying. The state of equipment which are obsolete or on the process of being, now gradually being retired from the forces services is a larger chunk actually. But then there's a concept of adding force multipliers so as to somehow keep the ratio and keeping it in such a way that it copes with the threat perceptions around. That's happening. So I would like, in a straight terms, I would say that lots of things have to be commissioned, have to be inducted into the armed forces, and which we are doing fast. But then when you start a process of indigenous manufacturing, it has a larger gestation period because technology is not something which we had been good at. Gradually we might cope up, but then that's something on which we had been lagging. And engine is something, let's say, I had often been talking about this aspect actually. Metallurgy, engine, chip making, these have been the sore areas as far as things are concerned. So if you see from that perspective, every setup, every service, which is Army, Navy, and Air Force, is dependent on engines, which is coming from outside. And today, let's say your fighter squadrons, which have come down to around 30, they are dependent on engines only. They are obsolete. Lots of them, even still, although last month there was a MiG squadron which has been number plated, but still there are three squadrons which are functioning with the Air Force. Similarly, in case of artillery, we have done well in terms of artillery. For the army, we are doing quite well in terms of armored also, because lots of new projects are being started. But then again remains that same point which I was saying, engine remains the sore area, the technology remains the sore area. Even if you are going to induct these weaponry, you need to develop your own technology. Either you buy it in terms of transfer of technology, which is not happening actually. Let us be very clear on that perspective. Only good silver lining which has been there in the last 2-3 months is a joint venture with Safran, which has agreed to manufacture engines for helicopters, which they had been doing earlier also. If they come up and there is a joint venture with them, that could lead to to lots of things, and it can trickle down to an ecosystem wherein we can start producing our own engines. Although I have heard that in terms of armored, lots of things have been happening, and there's an engine test which is going on, which might be indigenous soon. So, and again, coming down to even personal weapons or to the assault rifles, we are importing a lot of them actually, which should have been by now being manufactured in India. Coming to AK-203, which is supposed to be starting manufacturing at Amethi, which is not had started yet. So it has to begin. Sagswar, which is another American assault rifle, it has come from abroad. We are again further looking up for them, and but then lots of things, as we started with, positive things are happening. In terms of higher technology, let's say our missile, which is BrahMos, is being sold to foreign companies. LCA, which is being which has come up as a contender in lots of cases abroad. So we are coming up. Not that we are doing well, but we are doing well in terms of catching up. It might take another 4, 5, 10 years, by which time we might come in a position wherein we might be seen as serious contenders. But before that, we have to create, we have to come up with infrastructure base ecosystem, which is supply lines, metallurgy, raw material, scientific temperament, imbibing of scientific know-hows that might turn up. And for that, as General Asthana was talking, that there's a clause of investments from abroad also. So foreign investment can rise up to even 100% in certain cases, but that has to be approved by competent authorities. So a work on an ecosystem in terms of creating your own manpower, creating your own innovative ideas. Now, Center of Excellence, IITs have created lots of innovative hubs wherein work is going on. And one of the successes has been the UAVs and these drone technologies. Missiles have been something which had been a success story for India. And in that term, in last 2-3 years, maybe because of the impetus which we, or the compulsion or the reactionary step we have taken after the this Eastern Ladakh standoff, lots of things have happened after that in terms of missiles. Multiple types of and multiple ranges of missiles have been test fired. In fact, to the extent that we have started amalgamating the missile technology, which is like BrahMos, with one of the most weapon platforms, Sukhois. So now, with the increased ranges, which is like up to 500 kilometers, now these formidable fighter aircraft, which is Sukhois, they are armed with BrahMos, and that's going to further increase your capability of combat. Similarly, as you said, light combat helicopters, which is indigenous. So that's taking place. We are creating lots of things. There is a threshold. Might be we are in a position that sooner or later, we'll be in a position when we'll break that threshold of the manufacturing this thing, that we'll be counted amongst the people who have good set of manufacturing units and list of equipments which are looked up by the foreign companies for induction in their armed forces. So we are doing really well in that.
Definitely, Mayank, there are a few positives. Major General Asthana, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is changing the world for good. The world would not be anymore what it used to be before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And because we are heavily dependent on Russia for the arms supply, Russia had been the only country which has majorly shared technology with India, while America has been very stingy about sharing technology. France, to some extent, shares technology with India, but no other country has been sharing technology with us, and it takes a lot of time to develop technology. So, but we have to catch up soon. So, how do we speed up?
The present initiatives, that if we put the clause of transfer of technology in almost every deal we do, and if a country doesn't give us that equipment with this clause, then we look at the other options. I think that is one thing which is perhaps helping us in getting some technologies which we were not getting earlier. The second methodology is telling the entire world, which I think our foreign minister is doing it very appropriately. He has been saying in almost all forums that we have fair amount of equipment coming from Russia and being maintained by Russia. But this has happened for two reasons. One, West did not give us technology when it was required. And two, the West has been arming the dictatorship on our next door. So this sums up as to we have a equipment profile the way it is, but it has happened because of these cumulative reasons. So therefore, it makes sense for even the Westerns. The subtle message which he is giving to the Western manufacturers is that you also open up your technology, we'll buy from you. If you share technology with us, nobody else shared technology with us. Only Russians shared, and that's why we are manufacturing T-72s. Had they not shared technology, we wouldn't be manufacturing T-72s. So the fact is that they were forthcoming, they shared technologies, and that's where we are. So if the West also feels that they need India, which they need, because if they have to take on China challenge, then certainly they need India. And if the partnership has to be strategic partnership in the real sense, then they might as well give us technology. So this is the way I think the points are being made. And also it's a buyer's market. If somebody doesn't give technology, we move on to the next guy. So considering that, I think we are getting some technology. There are certain critical technologies which nobody shares, like the seeker technology of missile. We have been talking about strike drones for a long time. It's only now USA has been open to giving us Reaper Mark II. But otherwise, it's not that we didn't demand Reaper Mark II. We have been demanding it for quite some time now, but it didn't happen that way. So, in short, what I would say that yes, there is a need, and for the others also to open up their technology. We certainly need technology. Some we will invent, some we will discover our own. But certain proven technology, certainly it needs to be shared, and we have to create an environment that they share with us. That's one part of it. The second thing is that what is encouraging is that even our defense manufacturing companies, their shares are going up even when the global world is getting into recession. For example, like HAL, Garden Reach Workshop, Mazagan Dock Builders. So why it has happened is because these guys are doing indigenous building, indigenous manufacturing, and there is a market. So the market forces are deriving that. It's like in USA, everything is every segment of economy is down, but the arms manufacturers are having a good time.
Indeed.
Because everyone is wanting to buy equipment in the world. So
Indeed,
I think
indeed, Major General Asthana. In fact, former Foreign Secretary Shashank was with us on a show a few days back, and he said that the defense exports of the US would save the country from recession, while the Europe would certainly go in the recession. But Mayank, you have to say you wanted to say something.
I was
Please
trying
go
to
ahead.
say something which is very important is that 1988 India got lease of a nuclear submarine which was INS Chakra, which we termed as INS Chakra. None of the countries they gave us. During 70s, the people who were helping the Chinese in terms of technology because of the Cold War were the US. So they were building up Chinese technology so as to balance out with the US actually. Same again up till 2012 in terms of trade war. It was US and China, they were together against India. So you have to understand your own requirements. You have to push in your own ecosystem in such a way that your strategic requirements and the bases which you have in India, they get built up. Your reliability on Russia is because they have come up in the time of needs. When you are building your ATV, which is advanced technology vehicle, which is Indian version of Indian submarine, nuclear submarine, Russia again came forth with. So not that we were not asking for joint ventures and technological transfers from the Americans. We had been doing that. So telling us something else and doing something else is what is creating problem for us. And we need to understand that. And we are doing whatever we are doing is correct. Let us push in our own ecosystem so that we have locally produced weaponry. Now coming up to the new age technology, which is cyber, which is like artificial intelligence, which is like machine learning and all. We have put in our youngsters and young innovators. And I have been meeting lots of people who are creating technologies which are being sold to countries like Israel, which is like America and all. They might not be known publicly so much, but then there are youth, and they are young people below 30s, up to 30, 30, 35 years of age. So time is really good ahead. Ecosystem is there, and government has started creating push for us. You know what? The R&D budget this time, it has been kept up to 25% can go to the even private and industry of whatever the budget is. So, and there's a rise in that budget also. In fact, the private setups and innovators, they can propose their own programs. If gets approved, it will be funded by the defense ministry. All these things are creating good setups.
True. Major General Asthana, we are left with only a few minutes, but I would need your attention to the enterprising youth of the country who are driving the startup ecosystem. We have more than 60,000 startups, and in the areas like space technology and the defense, they are doing tremendous works. Do you think that the youth of the country will help the country to break the glass ceilings and help us stand on our feet?
Certainly, we have, in fact, we are proud of having the largest technologically qualified young English-speaking manpower in the world. Now, this manpower, if properly utilized and properly harnessed, this expertise can certainly break the glass ceiling. And also, they are willing to come up with ideas. The fact that so many startups are coming up, in fact, if you count in terms of percentage rise in startups, we are ahead of everybody in the world, because the percentage rise which we have seen in last few years has been tremendous. So considering all these factors, I feel that we have a bright future, and the kind of, shall I say, support which the country is giving, even that is also something which is amazing, in a manner that you would have found there were certain TV programs that somebody comes and produces. There are on the program, there are a whole lot of manufacturers sitting there, and somebody comes and produces his ideas. And if his idea is liked, then you find a funder. So correct. These are very small events. Although it may look like a stage managed program, but notwithstanding that, the fact is that there is a consciousness, and yes, the consciousness is that if we take everybody along, and if people are encouraged to research and people are encouraged to innovate, then the manufacturing industry will improve. And in case of equipment like dual use equipment, like drones. Now, drones, there are a whole lot of manufacturers which have come up in no time. All what is required is to tweak that research into the defense requirements. And then you will get all kinds of drones which you want to manufacture. So I think we have a fair chance to come up very fast and overturn many defense exporters of their position in times to come.
So on that positive note, we will wrap up our discussion at the Raisina Hills. Our endeavor is to bring in-depth discussion with the foremost voices in the sector, so that the listeners and the viewers get the better understanding of the issues that the nation is confronted with. So Major General Asthana, thank you so much for joining the Raisina Hills for the discussion. And Mayank, my colleague for several years, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.